I'm Hunter Pence here with the Giants outfielder, the great Mike Yastrzemski, who has the tall task of playing in one of the most difficult right fields, outfields in general, the windiest, the biggest, Oracle Park. Mike, how's it feel to take on the task of playing right field here?
It is my favorite thing to do. The best part about getting to play right field here is you always have a chance to take away hits, and that is really gratifying. There's always an opportunity to impact the game when you're out here. So to have that opportunity, I'm so fortunate and I don't take it for granted, and I just love coming out and playing right field every day here.
Watching you get out here and take away hits, you see the effort that you put in. I've seen you crash into all these walls. They're pretty crazy. So let's dive into a little bit of wind. So for me, the thing where most outfielders on the other team would lose games, maybe it's different now, is a fly ball to second base. The second baseman starts going for it, and the wind actually pushes it out if it's high and shallow.
Correct.
Because it's circulating, right? So it's kind of pushing it this way. And so the right fielder would give up on it, but you have to charge in on that because of but then over your head, it's gonna bounce back around this way.
Correct.
Is
Yes.
it still the same?
It's the exact same, it's just a little less intense. So what I like to look at is I'll look at all these flags up here on the other side. And the crazy thing is you'll see two flags that are right next to each other that are actually blowing opposite directions. And they're within 6 feet of each other. So I know that if I see a ball high and shallow, that I have to catch it. I've played with Tyro for 5 years now. And so if you see a ball that's hit shallow, he'll take off. And the second that he gets to a certain spot, he'll just peel off. Like he won't even hear me. He doesn't need to hear I got it. He just knows that I'm going to make that play because I've run to that area so many times with him playing second base. So we have a really good connection in terms of, you know, where each guy's playing and how everyone's range is, and
that is freaking awesome. That is so sweet to have that ESP where it's like, this is my zone, I'm gonna cover this. We don't even have to communicate because it's so loud in the wind and you're running.
And then the other part about the wind too is everything's gonna push the ball back into play.
Yep.
And that's seen a lot on TV, they showed on some of the graphics, but there'll be balls that are legitimately 10 rows deep and they'll end up in fair territory.
100%.
So you can't give up on a ball. And the first thing that I tell guys when they get called up is to never let your feet settle. Because the second that you get your feet settled, the ball's gonna be in a different position and then you have to panic. And if you're moving late while you're looking up, the ball's gonna look like it's moving a lot more. So I always just try and keep my feet under me, keep them moving a little bit, unless it's a ball on the warning track or something deep where I've already gotten to the spot, because those balls tend to just stay true versus the ones down the line, the ones that are shallow that are really getting pounded by that wind.
So when I'm doing the broadcast in the booth, we'll have the graphic of the wind and like the arrows will be doing like every direction. And it's like, what? Do you get to see that graphic before games now? Because they never had that when I was playing. We just had to figure it out.
I'll see it every now and then. If I'm not, they don't show it to us, but if I'm walking by a TV in the clubhouse or something like before the game and the broadcast is on and I see it, I'm like, that's interesting, but I don't have enough knowledge of that visual to know what it's actually going to do, because it could look like it's blowing out. You know, you see the wind blowing out, but if it hits the scoreboard and redirects this way, then all of a sudden I'm chasing a ball in the gap and I miss it because I run too deep of a route.
So you can't really trust that. You have to get out here and look at BP.
And and even, you know, this too, the difference between the day and the night here is so drastic. So you'll come out in BP and the ball will be flying. Guys will be hitting homers left and right. And then you get into the game and you see a guy hammer a ball, it's 105, and it's not even getting to the track. And so you're like, okay, that makes a big difference. I have to change everything that I'm doing out here in that moment when you see that happen.
Let's move over to straight up right field.
This is my mark right here. I've got a specific straight up spot.
For me, I always looked at second and third. All right, so this would be straight up if you line those up, which is basically exactly where your mark is. Something that I like to play with, and I never really came up with an exact science to this, is like pre-pitch prep. So I would try several different things. For instance, like pre-pitch, you know, you think of the Cal Ripken where you can do a little hop, you can do a step. I would even mess with like, do I want to be like, which way do I want to like stagger my feet or square? What have you found that works best for you? Because your jumps are insane.
I've always been a two-step guy. I've always rolled into it one, and as the ball's crossing the zone, my plant leg is landing. So as a kid, I'd be straight up because I'm like, oh, I gotta give myself the best chance to see the ball, until I got into college and I really got moved more to right field as opposed to center, where you're straight on for everything. And they taught me there how to line myself up so that I'm a little bit open and I have the best chance to take a direct angle to the gap, because that's the ball that's going to hurt you the most. The rest of it, this is shallow, especially here with a shallow right field. You don't have as much ground to cover, so I'm setting my angle up to make the toughest play every single time, no matter what. So that way, even if there's a ball over here, as I take my second step, it's a little behind this foot. My angle is kind of straight in line with second and third as opposed to right at the bag. I don't have to completely shift open my hips to make that read. It's just a simple drop step, and now I'm already dead in line with the corner.
Okay.
So I don't even have to worry about that.
All right, so I have a great question. I love that. This was something I played with, and it was a give and take, okay? So let's imagine line drive right at you, right? And this is where sometimes, for me, it's the toughest ball, because you don't know if they top spun it or back spun it, and that's gonna shift whether you go forward or back. So you have to hesitate a slight second. You can't just, and for me, it was like, so you're coming here, and the next move, if it's like right at you, to figure out if it's gonna come forward or back, would be now, boom, all right, right? So like, this is just giving me a second, so now from here, I can go back or forward. What is kind of your play on that ball?
I do the exact same thing. I think that's the best way to do it, because in that quick of a second, if you make the wrong decision, ball's over your head or ball's in front of you. So instead of
A false step kills you.
Exactly. Instead of taking that false step, you take that one split second to kind of break down. So now I'm already ready to go forward. But if I feel like I have to go back, the pressure on this front leg can then help me open up, and then I can go make the play. It also depends on where you're playing too, right? So here, with the wind behind our back, we know that all spin's gonna be exaggerated. So if you're hitting a ball into the wind and you spin it, that's gonna exaggerate what happens. So if you're downwind, it's gonna lessen it. So, you top spin a ball downwind, it's not gonna have that hard snap. It's gonna tumble, but not like crazy. But when it's into the wind, it's gonna have that super hard snap or that big balloon. So with this wind, you always have to be on top of that read and making sure that you trust what you see. That's the most important thing that I tell outfielders, and that I believe in my game, is trust what you see, because when you've done it for so long, your instincts are better than what you think they are.
Typically later in the season, you get like a 6:45 start, and the sun is going to be like the first inning. You're just like, are you there yet? Is that happening now? Or
we finally passed it, so
okay,
it was there. Yeah, so it
Oh
came
my
through. That is the most debilitating feeling, because you have it's right on top of the stadium, and everything by the plate is dark. You have sunglasses on because you can't see anything in the air, but then you can't see the ball leaving the bat because it's so dark there. So you're just in absolute fight mode.
I remember there was a couple games, it was like against the Dodgers and stuff, and I just remember being like, please God, don't hit it over here.
You're like Smalls out there, just hit it here.
In fight mode, and that is a miserable inning for sure. So now the ball's in the air. What's kind of the next thing you want to focus on?
So there's basically two different routes that I go about this. It all depends on the trajectory. So if it's a line drive and something that I am full speed, catching relatively quick, I just tell myself, go get it, no matter what, because you have to trust that your off outfielder is gonna back you up. So if I have to go make a diving play here in the gap, I can't be thinking about what's gonna happen if I miss the ball. I just have to trust that my center fielder is backing me up, so that way I can give it the best effort that I have. And the second thing of that is, on a higher trajectory, let's say there's a ball deep in the gap. As I'm going, I take my first steps, I'm reading, okay, I have an idea, and I'm head down, and I take at least 3 steps before I pick it up again, because when I'm running, you don't ever see sprinters run the 100-meter looking back like this, right? Because it's gonna slow you down. It's always dead down your target. So as I've seen the ball, I have a spot picked out. I immediately think, where's that ball landing? And I run right to that spot. And then I'll pick it up again, and I'll see that I'm right on line and just continue on and be ready to make the play. Your value is in saving runs out here, and by keeping base runners from advancing an extra 90 feet, you're doing a plus job.
Yeah, every 90 feet is massive out here. And that was one thing that I didn't like doing with the night winds here. I was not comfortable really getting behind it and taking it really aggressive at this stadium in particular. So I would like you said, keeping your feet moving. And I tried to get as much of that as I could, but I just was like, make sure to catch the ball. I don't want to be like, I'm behind it, clank, you know, because it's like the ball is moving out here. So kudos to like making that happen at Oracle Park. That is probably one thing that's least talked about, is getting behind the ball here is probably the most difficult stadium. So Yaz, you're really known for the Superman, all these like crazy diving catches, sliding catches. The athleticism that you have is remarkable to watch. Can you talk a little bit about like when you make that decision, how you know if you have to dive, if you have to slide, or if you can catch it with your feet underneath you?
A couple of things. The first one is game situation. So if you have the tying run on second with 2 outs, the go-ahead run, any sort of big moment like that, it starts before the pitch is even thrown. In my head, I'm telling myself I have to make a play. I have to go catch this ball no matter what. And same thing applies when there's a no-hitter on the line. Like, you have to go. You have to go.
I'm diving even if it's 3 feet away.
If we're here and the ball's landing on the line, I'm still diving. I'm giving every effort that I can. It doesn't matter. So those things are all prepped in my head, except for, you know, those ones where you're running, you feel like you're on it, the wind starts taking a little further, then it's a last second. I've got to dive if I want to catch this. So I think part of it is practicing diving. When you're young, your defense is going to keep you in the game. That's what's going to happen. If you play good defense, you're going to get chances to hit. And the better defense you play, the better base running you have, the more chances you're going to get to stay in the lineup. Then when it comes to those in-game moments of do I dive, do I not dive, it's a lot of trust. Trust your other outfielders. And if you are always backing up your own outfielders, then you can trust that they're backing you up. So always back up each other and always allow your off outfielder to make a super aggressive play because they know that there's no harm behind it.
I think that's a great point. And I think even with regards to, you know, we talk about flow state, right? And like trust, like, how do you trust yourself? Well, you hit flow state through practice. You hit the unconscious when you do it over and over and over again. So I think that's a really cool point. So before the pitch is thrown, you know where the base runners are. You have an idea of where you're going to throw the ball. I think one thing that sometimes young players don't know how to do yet is like kind of like a crow hop, and like what is your mechanics to releasing the ball and throwing it. Do you mind running us through that a little bit?
It's a little bit different if the ball is in the air versus the ball is on the ground. So we'll start with the ball on the ground. I am always trying to field the ball off my glove foot.
So you want your glove foot to be in front when you catch it?
I that's my preference. You can get away with either one, but for me, as a guy who has a good arm but not an elite arm, I want to get rid of the ball as quick as possible, because if I can get the ball out of my hand, that forces them to make a decision. So they're not making a decision on whether to keep running or not until they see the ball out of my hand. So as I field off this leg, I come up, I cross over in front of my body to kind of keep my hips square as I come through, and then I'm throwing right off of that second step. So it's front leg, come up, and then I'm ready to go, versus if I field it here, then I come through, then I'm one step less, and that's one more step that base runner is taking while I'm trying to prep to throw.
Right, yeah, so it's here, boom. With your cross, do you have a hop as well? Because I have a hop.
Some guys do. I try and gain as much ground forward as I can. So if I'm coming here, I'm trying to go as far forward as humanly possible.
I love the hop.
Some guys end up coming up like this, and
you hopped, but it's more of a.
Yeah, it's a hop forward, gaining ground, because that's shortening your throw, that's giving you momentum. And then in terms of balls in the air, I've actually changed up a little bit of what I like to do in the air, mostly from Jungi, because watching him throw is incredible. So a lot of the guys in Korea and Japan have adopted this kind of skip step before they catch the ball.
All right.
So cool. I used to catch the ball in the air like this, and I'd want to just come through and throw, kind of similar to that. But what those guys have taught me is as the ball's coming down, they'll shift their body sideways. So they'll catch the ball like this, like almost in the air. So you'll see Jungi catch the ball almost in the air and come down throwing. It's really hard to do, but it's actually the most efficient way to get rid of the ball. So I wouldn't recommend doing this in a game right off the bat. Like, this is something you have to practice over and over. I spent all spring training trying it. And the first time I actually got to execute it was in Chicago, and I threw a guy out at the plate, and I couldn't believe it worked. It was the quickest I'd gotten rid of a ball, and I had a ton of momentum, and as I was seeing the ball into my glove, I had shifted my hips, so now I'm already in line to throw as opposed to catching the ball, taking an extra second to square up. So I'm catching the ball on that arm side as I'm in the air, and then I can take it down and let it rip.
The mechanics, the way they're taught is catch on the arm side. I had trouble with that because like I felt like my arms
visually it's tough.
Got into my way. So I was like, I'd have my throwing hand here, and I like, just because I had more vision, you know, but even that side catch, I like that better than either one, right? Because you're already kind of, like you can have your feet in the air as you catch the ball.
Yeah, and you can also catch it on this side of your body, right? Like if you're squaring up and you like to see your glove on this side of your body.
Oh man, it's nice. Like you're not getting in the way of your vision and pow.
Yeah, and just let it eat.
All right. What's your favorite part about playing here at Oracle Park?
I think my favorite part is seeing how frustrated other defenders get out here. It gives you like a crazy sense of confidence that I'm doing something right out here and that I'm bringing something to the team. There's nothing that brightens your day up more than making a diving play and seeing the pitcher just go like, oh my God, I can't believe you did that. And you're like, yeah, I did that. Yeah, I got your back. I'm always gonna do that for you. I'm gonna lay out for every ball I can for you. I'm gonna run into every wall I can for you. And there's just a ton of pride that I have in the hard work that I've put on playing defense because it's brought me to play the game at the highest level, and defense is the way that I got here.
Do you have a favorite play that you've made out here?
The catch that I made up against the wall against Kettle Marte for Tyler Anderson, the ball was just absolutely walloped, and I was like, I got no chance at this, but I'm gonna make it look good, you know, give a good effort. And I turn and look, and all of a sudden I'm like, I gotta make a jump and catch at the wall right here. And I felt like I went through the chain link, and I'm glad it was the chain link instead of the bricks.
I'm pretty sure I saw that one from the dugout, and I remember being like, that's the craziest catch I've ever seen. So I think my favorite part of playing here was similar to him is the home field advantage, the energy of the crowd, but also like watching a lot of other outfielders like just mess up balls. Like you lose a lot of hits to the wind because you crush it and hit it well, but you also get some pop-ups that turn into doubles if you're hustling.
That you do. So always hustle, kids.
I think the home field advantage is sweet here. I just like the fact that you had a ton of room and there was a ton of room to run. I wasn't the quickest guy, but my top speed was really high. So I felt like it played into my game that I could just like unleash and once I got going, I could cook. Obviously, I think my favorite play was the one with Vogelsong, Jason Worth, the Pence on the fence. Not quite as good as yours, but in a bigger moment.
Way bigger moment.
I mean, whenever you do anything in the playoffs, it's always exaggerated. So that was a pretty special time. You got to make the last out of the Blake Snell no-hitter.
I did.
What did that feel like?
That was a testament to you. You know, we've talked for the last couple of years about manifesting and envisioning good things happening and projecting them out into the world so they come back to you. And I was sitting there in the 6th, 7th inning, and I'm like, I got to get in this game. Like I have to get out there. You know, I was in the dugout with a hamstring injury when Cobb just missed his, and I wanted to be out there so bad for that. So when Bomel told me I was playing defense, I kind of looked at him and I was like, what took you so long? Like,
hey.
And so I told myself as I'm out there, I said, I'm either, one of two things is gonna happen. I'm gonna make a diving catch to preserve this, or I'm gonna catch the last out. And I got to catch the last out, and I was screaming as loud as I could to Ramos. I was like, basically just don't come near this ball. I'm catching it. I got it. We're done here. And that was really cool because I know how big of a moment that was for him. So to be able to be in videos for him for the rest of his life as catching the last out.
Yeah, you got it, dude.
That's
it. Hell yeah. Mike Yastrzemski, thank you so much for your time, man. What an honor, what a pleasure. And every Giants fan out there, all baseball fans, make sure to listen to this guy because he knows what he's doing. There's no coincidence why he's such a good defender for the Giants.